Welcome to Truckers Voices Podcast. Your host, Tim Taylor, and co-host, Steve Brand. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
This is Danny Smith. Just calling to tell you how much I appreciate listening to your show, Truckers Voices. It's very informative. I really like hearing the drivers' stories, how they got into the trucking industry and maybe what kind of trucks they started out with. And it's just been a lot of fun, and I would encourage any drivers out there to tune in and listen, call in, be a part of it. It's a great show. Thanks.
Hi, this is Scott Post, and I love Truckers' Voices because there's always something entertaining and educational for our industry. And it's also hosted by two of my good friends, Tim Taylor and Steve Brand. Tune in tonight. And in the meantime, be safe out there.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? My name's Charlie Demchuk, and I'm here to welcome you to tonight's big show. Y'all sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Tim and Steve got a good one in store for you. So have a good night. We'll see ya.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a good day of trucking out there. Hey, it's been 2 weeks since we've been on the air. Last week, didn't know what kind of weather we had coming in, so I decided to cancel the show last week because we had the hurricane coming up toward us out of the Gulf down there. But it took a turn and went across and went out in the Atlantic and then come back in South Carolina. So with that said, I want to send my condolences to those that were affected by the hurricane and, everything. My prayers have been with you. But you know what? Y'all hang in there because we will get through this. Hey, hope you had that good day of trucking. I had a good day of trucking. Went to Atlanta, come back. Everything's good. I'm at home, and I'm sitting here talking to you right now. And what we always say, I'm going to steal Steve's line right here. The most important trip we make every day is the trip that we make when we come through that door. Speaking of Steve, let me bring Steve in here tonight. So anyway, but it's good to have everyone in here.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Look good, Tim.
Hey, Steve. Hey, you look good also, brother. Did you have a good day of trucking? Because I'm going to tell you right now, trucking looks good on you.
Well, no, I had a good day. Man. Went straight up, straight back. Got my 30-minute break out of the way. Me driver was on time. I was on time. Man, everything was good. Hope everybody else had a good time. And, just to reiterate, thoughts and prayers with everybody down in Florida. And, they've got a mess to clean out, but they'll make it. That's what we do.
We've been there before. We've done this before. We are Americans, and that's when we pull together and show that we are unified there.
Yep. And I've already seen some pictures on Facebook. The trucking industry is coming through, hauling all kinds of water, food, supplies, relief efforts. And once again, the truckers are coming to the call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's great. So we got a good show lined up for you tonight. We're going to do a 2-part show tonight. On the first half of our show, we have a lady with us, and her name is Kathy Krakula, and she is the director of Special Olympics and the Convoy out of Minnesota. So with that said, I'm going to bring Kathy on to the show here, and we're going to get this thing started. I think that you are going to find this very interesting what she has to say to us. So without further ado, let's bring Kathy in here.
Thank you, Tim. Good to see you too, Steve. How are you both tonight?
Fantastic, Kathy. Good to see you.
All right.
Doing
Thanks for having me.
Doing good. So, Kathy, it's so good to have you in there. We're going to start the show off like we always do. We want you to tell us a little bit about yourself personally. Who you are, where you're at, or what you love doing. The show's yours.
That's what I do best is tell the story. It seems that you are lucky enough sometimes in life to have those jobs where you do tell the story. And in my position at Special Olympics Minnesota, that's part of what I do is I do tell the story. I'm the development director at the state office for the state of Minnesota. So I develop programs, I develop events, I try to come up with new ways, exciting ways, new things to happen so we don't get stale. And 18 years ago, I got a call from a gentleman a trucker by the name of Dave Clausen. And I was fortunate enough to get the call. And he said, "Does Minnesota do the truck convoy?" And I said, "We don't." And he said, "Why?" Boy, I couldn't answer that when he put me right on the spot. I said, "I don't know. Give me your name and number, and I'm going to get right back to you." And I went through that office, which was right in the middle of planning a law enforcement torch run international conference here in Minnesota. So I said, "Why don't we have this?" And they said, "You know what? We're pretty busy right now." I said, "No, I'll do it. I'll be happy to do it. Just why don't we have it?" No one had really picked it up and done it in the state of Minnesota. It started with Corporal Norm Schneiderhand in Florida. And he actually started it in New York because his family owned a trucking lines. And so he was in law enforcement and he thought, why can't these two kind of marry each other? Why can't we marry a great fundraising event, Special Olympics, and what I do best, and that's trucking? And so thus began the world's largest truck convoy. And the reason we can say that is because if we add the miles that every Special Olympics office does for the convoy, we had more miles logged than anybody for one event. So that's where the world's largest truck convoy came from. And that was 18 years ago that I got the call back in 2004. And like I said, Dave Clausen was a trucker, put me on the spot, and there we began. We had our very first one out by the Mall of America in a parking lot with a tent. And there we started. It was colder than blazes. We had tent warmers and it was cold in there, but we had a band and we had music and we had lights, and we started it the day before, and the next morning we gathered everyone together, staged them, and thus began the first truck convoy in Minnesota. So now here we are 18 years later, and it's a given. They start getting the rumble about in September. Hey, where's the convoy? Where are we going? Where are we going out of? Where's the route this year? And we will be out at Running Aces Hotel and Casino. We'll be in the hotel part in the ballroom out in Columbus, Minnesota. This isn't an easy event to actually change the venue on, because I need one heck of a good sized parking lot.
You do.
Yeah, I do. Last year we had 119 trucks that go bumper to bumper down the highway. And if you can believe it, you actually get an escort from the law enforcement torch run people. So hand in hand, there's your buddies. They're just protecting you as you stay in one lane and go bumper to bumper down the highway for about 70 miles. Yeah. So it is a sight to see. When we put that article in the newspaper out there, I mean, people line the overpasses, they line on the side of the highway, they cheer them on. It's just something to see. And of course, our athletes from Special Olympics come out and they get to ride, if the insurances allow it, they get to ride in the cab of the truck with the truckers. So the horns are tooting, the athletes are waving, the truckers are happier than hell that we get to go, bumper to bumper down the road with the law enforcement escort, and it's a sight to see. in Minnesota, we have over 8,000 athletes who have intellectual disabilities. And every dime that we raise goes to help them. And almost every year we kind of raise between, I would say, $60,000 to $80,000 in that 24-hour time slot.
Nice.
So this is nothing to sniff at. It's a great event, and we've gotten to know the people, the industry. It's been my pleasure to get to know the people that are in this industry, and like Teamster leaders, and the organizations that insure them, and it's a big family. So it starts with the truckers, and then it goes into the truck lines and who insures them and who they work for and where they go. And one year we have an athlete ambassador, and so he's one of our athletes, but he tunes in with the truckers, I swear to God, all year long, and talks with them and keeps up conversation and everything. It's a real neat friendship. Well, he had this car, and he needed to have a whole fender replaced on that car. I don't know what was wrong, but he found it, and I think it was way down south where he found the part. So by calling his buddies, he got the part brought up here to the Convoy. They put their lights on his car, facing his car, all night long, so they could take his old fender off and put the new one on. I mean, this is not just a Convoy, let me tell you.
Right.
The fingers run deep, and the love runs long. So they're there, and they're there with the biggest hearts in the world. I am very proud to be a part of this industry and to be able to pull everything together on my end, because they sure make things very, very easy. So ours is coming up this Friday and Saturday, the 7th and 8th of October, out at Running Aces Hotel and Casino, but we will be in the hotel part. This Saturday is when we take off, but we have fun on Friday. We're showing videos there, and we're bringing in pizza, and that's kind of our leisure night. But we have prizes, and we have awards the next day, and the athletes come out and they start looking for their favorite truckers.
Yeah.
It is the neatest event with so much heart, is what I always say. It's not just an event. It's not just a convoy. It's not just a fundraiser.
Right.
This is an event that has so much heart. And to see it, well, I've been standing at that start line now for 18 years, and there isn't a year that my eyes are dry in watching it go. I thought it's nice that they've got little dogs and this stuff to be their partner. Well, they put on all these miles cross country and all, but then I see an athlete who has a disability that's in there, and they allow him to pull the horn and to wave, and it's a big deal. It's just the nicest thing to see. So they'd have a hard time taking this event away from me.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place where I could transition. I want to show a little bit of a video clip here. I won't show the whole thing, but I just want to show the listening audience and the looking audience right now a little video of what you all do there in Minnesota. Okay, so just hang tight with me here.
I've seen it done at the Olympics when they win something, so that's the goal. Take the gold home to Duck.
My favorite part of the convoy is where the individuals that we came up here for the Special Olympics does not let their disabilities define who they are. I think it was a good experience, and I was happy to be a big part of it.
Be a part of something bigger than myself and represent DART and represent the industry for a good cause of Special Olympics here.
The favorite thing about being in the convoy, being able to act like a kid, honk your horn, wave at the people on the sides of the roads and people on the bridges, and knowing that it's going for a special cause.
Just the appreciation from the parents, the athletes, the police, the other trucking companies. We had people lined up against the highway, waving, kids, parents, everybody was lending their support to this cause, and it's a good thing to be a part of. It was trucking's giving back and helping those that are part of the Special Olympics program.
My favorite thing was that DART represented best than anything. We got the flag, we had the most trucks, and everybody just, we were talk about everything. Everything was talked about was DART. So to be a member of the DART team and be able to represent like we have, I'd say that's probably about my favorite, probably the favorite thing this time around.
That's us.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, Kathy. So I know that promoted the company DART there a little bit. They promoted there in that. But tell us a little bit about some of the other companies that come and help you out at Special Olympics.
Oh yeah. One of my right hands in this whole event is a gal that recruits drivers and places them in the truck lines. What a fit. She knows all the truck lines. She can get me and she makes a phone call, and all I hear at the end of the day is, this truck lines is committing 5, this one has 17, this is 2, this is this, and she just keeps banging away on them, but that's the beauty of it, is if you think of 18 years, and many of these people have been on this for the whole 18 years. And when you see them and you see them come back, it's like old home week. This isn't an event. This is something from the heart. It's a gathering from the heart. It's said in our state office here at Special Olympics, if it has wheels or an engine, it's Kathy's. Nobody else likes to handle those. I do ATV events, snowmobile events, but the convoy is the unique part. At the end of our Friday, like 9:00 Friday night, we kind of button it up until 6:00 the next morning. And I go out and I drive by to see how many trucks we have. And if we have 15 or 20, we've just had some that came off the road and stay overnight. And then the next morning, I can't wait to see how it's multiplied. It's the whole lot is filling, and they come in one after another, after another, after another. And same with the escort that we get. We have a sheriff's deputy here that recruits other law enforcement. So we have everything from the highway patrol to sheriff's departments to police departments. All of them come so that they can escort this whole convoy down the highway one by one, bumper to bumper. Even when we do our turnaround, there is just something to see, bumper to bumper. And we even have a bus company, a tour bus company. It's a fancy tour bus. This isn't just some tour bus. This is one like quote Dolly Parton would have or something,
Right.
And they take whole families in there and say that it's the neatest way to see the convoy. And so we have we'll have 2 tour buses. We have a school bus, and who's going to fill it with kids. And you see it all. It all falls under the trucking industry. And what a great batch of people. This is like no other event. And like I said, they probably cannot pry my little grubby hands off of this one because I like it so much. It's just got so much heart. And even though it's just a 24-hour event, it goes by way too fast, way too fast.
Well, Kathy, tell us a little bit about the athletes there.
Sure.
Tell us the reaction of the athletes if they've never been in a truck, and you know, uh, just tell us. I'm just going just tell us about them.
Okay, well, our athletes, to qualify for Special Olympics, they have to have an intellectual disability, and that can be anything from Down syndrome to a developmental disability, social wise, or whatever. And then our job with Special Olympics, we train them just like any athlete would train for a sport. We in the state of Minnesota, we have 17 sports, and so you pick which ones do you want to be. My niece lives with me, and I swear to God, she's in almost every sport that there is, and there's no charge to our athletes. That's the beauty of Special Olympics. So
Yes.
that's why we do these fun events, so that they can continue to have sports to participate in at no charge. When they come to the venue that we have, and they first of all they're not going to come in right away. They're out there looking at the trucks and talking to the truckers, and then they come in, and some of our truckers have had the same athletes for all 18 years. And what they'll do is they're going to bring them a jacket and a hat and this. I mean, there's a lot of payola going on here, let me tell you. But that's the beauty of it, is they're not looking at it as just somebody that's going to ride with them. They look forward to maybe mama's coming with, or maybe they're somebody from their group home or whatever, and they're all in that truck just having the time of their life. And because they had never had that opportunity before, and not many people have had that opportunity. And that's what's kind of neat to see, is that this is marrying the trucking industry and educating us that this is how it looks from your perspective. I have a whole different respect now than I used to. When a truck passes me, I look up at them, make sure they know I'm waving, pointing to my Convoy sticker in the window, and they it creates a whole different mindset, so to speak. So it isn't just a big rig on the road. It's somebody that is getting, I mean, look at during the pandemic, they kept us moving. They kept us alive. Even now, when you hear of the natural disasters of the floods and the hurricanes and things, who's there? Who's the first ones there? Truckers are going to bring it there. So, I mean, open your eyes, people. This is an industry that just, in their way, just takes care of the whole world. When I once heard that song, America Moves by Truck, yep, you damn straight they do.
You're
It
right.
is.
We are the engine of this economy, and
Yes.
if you don't have it, it's going to be brought by a truck somehow, some way. Hey, there are no planes landing in the Walmart parking lot. It's a truck that's backing up to the dock.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? But behind those trucks lies some of the neatest people. Like I say, we've lost a few of them this year, and it hurts. It really hurts. It's like losing a family member. And so when we have that moment of silence and they, take off their hat and bow their head, it's sincere. We have lost some this year. And this year we even lost Corporal Norm Schneiderhan, who started it. So, he actually came to Minnesota to teach me how to do it. And he showed me how to knock on the doors and who I talked to at the truck lines and everything. And like I said, usually every year following our event, he and I have a phone call. How many did you get? 119. You can do better. See you next year. Thanks, Norm. Thanks. But great group of people. Great group of people.
So, Kathy, tell us how a truck driver can get involved, not only in Minnesota, but any state that has the convoy.
Yes, all they have to do is call their Special Olympics office, and every state has that. So you all can look that up, and there will be a number to start with. And they will direct you to the staff person in charge. Some of them now, I have to say, through the years, Some of them are kind of lightweight, so to speak, and they say this is a little bit too much work to put together. I wouldn't give it up for the world, not at all. It puts itself together. This event does. The truckers come. I might book in some insurance policies and permits and things like that and get things organized. But the truckers are the glue. They're the ones that make this happen year after year after year. That young fellow you heard singing the national anthem, he's one of our athletes. And he has sang that national anthem for more events for Special Olympics than anyone I've ever known. Never had one voice lesson or anything, but he can sing that national anthem. I don't even worry about him missing a note or forgetting a word. And everybody knows Louis Nosan and is singing the national anthem. Beautiful, beautiful.
He did a beautiful job. He did a beautiful job. Kathy, how many miles do you all travel?
We've traveled different distances depending on the venue we've been in. Where we are now, we put on a total of about 60 miles, about 30 miles up, turn around, and about 30 miles back. So, sometimes it's way too short.
Right, right, exactly. Now, how if somebody would want to make a donation, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, I'm going to give them the state office number because that is manned, either by a voicemail or whatever. And that number is 612-333-0999. And they can leave a message. And I know this pandemic doesn't have everybody back sitting in an office anymore. And I'm kind of semi-retired, so I've been working out of my home for quite a while now. But I still, like I said, I'm not giving this event up. I'm not giving my snowmobile event up. I'm sorry, guys. You just aren't taking the engines out of me.
Tell me that number one more time, Kathy.
It is 612-333-0999.
0999.
Yes.
Tell me this. I am actually adding that banner to the screen now.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you want to get in touch and if you want to donate, the number on the screen right there is 612-333-0999. And you can donate there. You can find out anything you want to about the Special Olympics Convoy. Hey, Kathy, it's been great having you on the show. We're fixing to transition to the second part of our show here. But you can stick around in the green room. You can see everything from the back there. On our next one, we're going to be talking with some folks from your state, from Minnesota, with Operation Lifesaver. I think that you might know one of the gentlemen.
Scott Post.
Scott Post, of course.
I know my people.
Yeah.
Kim, Steve, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. And I hope my voice reaches out to all the truckers who I have so much great respect for.
Absolutely. And tell anybody if they want to know anything about what's going on, they can go to our Facebook page and watch this podcast.
I love it.
Yeah. So thank you, Kathy. And we will have you back in the future. We may want to have you back to tell us what all went on and how it went this time. So
wow, that I would love. I'm happy to do this at any time. Thank you, fellas. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate all you do.
And you're welcome here on Truckers Voices anytime. You're a part of the family now.
Come on, you guys. I cry easily, All
right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, Steve. So that was a great interview with her. Very educational. And so we're going to move into the next part of our show. As we're doing that, I want to tell the listening audience, I'm actually going to show a video here before we bring Sheryl and Scott on. And it is a video that they just finished making not too long ago. And it's about Operation Lifesaver there. So let's go to the video and we'll bring our next two guests right on here. So y'all hang tight.
Combos are involved in 40% of collisions with trains, making it imperative that these drivers This video is unique to drivers of large trucks and trailers. Research shows that these drivers are involved in a disproportionately larger number of incidents. In Minnesota, truck-trailer combos are involved in 40% of collisions with trains, making it imperative that these drivers are educated properly on rail safety. Today, I am here with Scott Post. Scott has 45 years of professional driving experience. He was the 2019 Minnesota Truck Driver of the Year and Minnesota Trucking Association 5-axle state champion. He has 2.7 million accident-free driving miles under his belt. Scott is here to share some safety tips and some advice about his personal experience as a professional driver.
Thanks, Ellie. It's great to be here. One of the first things I would like to talk about is making sure that there is enough space for your tractor and trailer to occupy on the far side of the railroad crossing. If there is not enough space, you could end up with your trailer stranded across the railroad crossing. I remember a few years ago, I watched a tractor trailer pull up to an intersection, stoplight at a busy highway. There were railroad tracks running parallel to the highway, and the driver had pulled his tractor and half of his trailer through the intersection. Back half of his trailer was on the tracks. It was nighttime and a freight train was approaching from the passenger side of the vehicle. The crossing gate came down on top of the trailer and the driver had nowhere to go. They could not back up because there were cars behind the trailer, and they could not pull forward because there was traffic on the busy highway. The freight train struck the trailer, tearing the rear 2/3 of the trailer away, and canned goods were scattered for a quarter of a mile at least down the tracks. The driver wasn't injured, but the conductor and the engineer had cuts and bruises on their face and glass in their eyes from cases of canned goods coming through the windshield of the lead locomotive. I thought to myself, what if this had been a situation that caused a derailment with railroad cars of hazardous materials or a passenger train? You as a professional driver will be held responsible for what happens. Therefore, it is very important that you're able to clear the tracks from any direction by at least 15 feet. Remember, it takes a train the length of at least 18 football fields or more than a mile to stop. If it doesn't fit, don't commit.
Scott, can you share with us some other reasons why you might find yourself stuck on the tracks if you're not careful?
Well, there could be too many cars between the tracks and the intersection, and then you would not have enough space for your whole tractor trailer to occupy, and you could end up with your tractor trailer stranded on the tracks. Another reason would be not having your landing gear fully retracted or having a trailer that's low clearance type of trailer where you might get hung up on the tracks.
Another thing that's important for truck drivers to know is the weight, the length, and the stopping distance of their truck. Can you explain why that's so important?
Well, it's very important because the heavier your load is, the heavier your gross weight, it's going to take you longer to stop, and so it's very important you are prepared to stop just like you would at any other intersection where you might have to stop, and making sure that you know the length of your vehicle so you know if you'll fit in a space where you're not stranded on the tracks.
We also have Bill Kraus, a professional truck driver of 38 years. He is America's Road Team Captain and was the 2014 Minnesota Truck Driver of the Year. He has over 3 million accident-free driving miles, and he is here to talk about approaching crossings with multiple tracks.
When approaching multiple tracks, please make sure the gates stay up before entering. There could be a train coming from the other direction. Remember, it takes 14 to 15 seconds from a dead stop for your tractor trailer to cross over the tracks. This reminds me of an incident I came in on my route years ago. This gentleman lived 100 yards from the tracks. He came home for lunch every day with his tractor trailer. He must have went over those tracks 100 times with no problem. But on this day after lunch, he came up to the tracks and didn't look. And he was hit by the train and pushed 100 yards down the tracks. He was pinned in the truck for over an hour. 5 days later, he died of his injuries. In my mind, he got complacent, too comfortable with his surroundings, and he took things for granted. And that cost him his life. So please, remember, when you come to a crossing, look both ways before you cross. It could cost you. And remember the most important thing, we all want you to get home to your family safe and sound at the end of the day.
We talked about some general signs in the early video, but there are signs that are pertinent to truck drivers. Let's go over a few. Raised crossing sign. This sign lets you know you are approaching a raised crossing. This allows drivers to be aware that the crossing is elevated and that there is potential for a hang-up scenario to happen. This warning is very important for drop frames, not fully raising landing gear, or other lowrider vehicles. Exempt signs. Exempt signs let drivers of commercial motor vehicles that have passengers or hazardous materials on board know that a stop is not required at that specific railroad crossing. You need to follow the guidance of your state and your employer when making the safety decision with this sign. We hope we provided you with information that will assist you while navigating railroad crossings safely. For more information, there are additional links on the website. If you would like a member of Minnesota Operation Lifesaver to speak in person to your organization, please reach out to mnoperationlifesaver@gmail.com.
Well, hello, Cheryl. How are you tonight?
I'm doing really great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you. Thank you for the video. Thanks to Bill and thanks to Scott. It was a great message to get out. So, welcome to Truckers Voices. Glad you're with us. And we had a great first half guest, and I know that we're going to have a second great guest on the second end of our podcast here. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
So, I am the executive director and the state coordinator for Minnesota Operation Lifesaver. Operation Lifesaver is a national program and also an international message. We are members of our national office in DC, and we are actually celebrating 50 years of sharing rail safety message with people across the country. And I have been the director of the Minnesota program since 2013. So about 9 years I've been here, and pretty excited and proud to be a part of an amazing group of people. We have volunteers all across the state. One of them we're going to meet here this evening, whose passion is just to help make their communities a safer place. All people that have experiences or understand the value of respecting these large vehicles. Obviously, we're talking about trains, but trucks and all sorts of vehicles that are on the roads that we share. It's just so important to respect their size and their value to our communities.
Okay, so tell me what got you actually involved in Operation Lifesaver?
Well, I'm a passionate person in terms of just wanting to help. I'm a helpful person. I like to be involved with my community and with things I care about. And when I heard about Operation Lifesaver here, I have friends and family who are in the railroad industry, and I was like, oh, I remember Operation Lifesaver coming to my school when I was a kid. Like, that's a fantastic program, and it made such a big impact on me personally as a child. I happened to go to a school where a fellow child in our school actually did lose their life to an incident with a train. And so, those visits really stuck with me, and I knew how important they were to all of us to help prevent future tragedies. So I definitely jumped at that opportunity, and 9 years later, here I am.
Okay, so going back, speaking to whenever a representative come to your school when you was a child, do you go out to the schools yourself now and promote it also?
I do, occasionally. Obviously, I don't want to, take any opportunities that our volunteers would want, because that is really important to them. That makes, some volunteers prefer to talk to children, some prefer to talk to adults, some prefer to speak to, law enforcement. We have programs that are designed for almost any demographic you can think of. We have videos and programs for little kids. We have lots of programs designed for driver's ed students, for professional drivers, and for, again, law enforcement, first responders, all people who really need to be able to do things in their life, and be able to do them more safely when it comes to tracks and trains.
Okay. All right. I'm going to back off the mic here. And Steve, I'm going to let you, sure you got a question here also.
Back several years ago, there was a big campaign on getting all the railroad crossings marked with lights and things of that nature, crossing guards and all that. Is that still a major goal? The funding, is that coming about? Are we proceeding forward to that? I guess I don't hear much about it anymore.
Yeah, so the way that we look at safety and our mission is almost like a stool. So our mission, our component of that stool, our leg of that stool, if you will, is the safety component. So we want to make sure that we're providing the safety information for people so that they can make the safest decisions possible for themselves. But we also partner with law enforcement and with engineering and communities, because obviously communities and municipalities and road authorities are the people who often are the ones who install and maintain and pay for the signage, equipment like you're talking about in terms of
Right.
lights, gates, bells and whistles, things like that. By federal law, all that a public railroad crossing that is required is to have the white X that says railroad crossing. That is called a crossbuck. And then they are required to have a blue and white sign. It's called the ENS sign. So the emergency notification system sign. So by law, that is all that is required at a public railroad crossing, because those signs tell us that it is our responsibility to yield to any oncoming trains at that crossing. However, we also know that statistically, more than half of the collisions that do occur at railroad crossings in this country actually do occur at crossings that are equipped with lights and gates and active warning devices. So that in and of itself is really the proof and the motive that we have for continuing our educational efforts, because really you can provide as many warnings as possible, but it's really still always up to us whether or not we're going to take those warnings seriously.
Right, exactly. Just like they talked about, y'all talked about in the video, that if you've got a traffic light on the other side of the crossing, hold back. You know, I seen a video flying around on the internet now where a truck driver goes across and the train's coming. You know, it seems like everybody's in a hurry. You see a lot of videos of like you said, the crossing guards. That's where the accidents happen, because people go around the gates and try to get through it. Yeah. And for whatever reason, they get hung up or anything. But no, appreciate everything y'all do. You know, in any way the trucking industry can get involved and help, that's what we're here for. You know, and that's what truck drivers love to do, is help out.
Yeah. Well, we know that firsthand with some of the amazing people we have on our team, particularly Scott and Bill as well, because they really they bring a lot of heart to our organization, a lot of passion, and you know, it was really the discussions we've had with some of these folks on our team that spurred this project on, because, you know, we mentioned, you know, almost 40% of the collisions in our state involve people who are driving for a living. So large vehicles, delivery vehicles, trucks, that sort of thing. And, they're just putting so many miles on the road, and they're so important that we just felt like that was an audience that needed updated material in a easy to access format. And so that's where this whole video series was born.
Okay. So the one, that's not the only video that you're putting out now. So you got other videos besides that one also. So
Yes.
they're all, like you said, they're all geared to different demographics, correct?
The video series in particular that we just released is currently, it's a 4-part series. We do hope that someday we will be able to add to it in the next year or two. But currently it starts out as there's an introduction video that talks a little bit about our safety message and why our safety message is so important for people who drive vehicles for a living. The second video talks about some of the key safety tips for anybody that drives for a living, because we really thought, the larger vehicles, those truck drivers, they're such an important audience. But especially during the pandemic, so many more people are getting into that industry, and so many more people are doing other auxiliary jobs as well. So they're, driving smaller delivery vehicles to get from point A to point B, or they're driving their own personal vehicles to deliver products and goods from stores and things like that. So we really wanted to be able to be as inclusive as possible for all of those drivers. And then we have a video that features Captain Olson from the State Patrol here in Minnesota, who helped to talk about some of the signs and the signals that we need to know about in terms of driving safely around tracks and trains. And then we have the video that features Scott and Bill as well, to reach out to those truck drivers specifically. Just as Bill mentioned, our mission is really to make sure that everybody makes it home safe every day.
Right. Okay, so right now, I'm going to bring Scott in here. Scott's got some slides that he sent to me, and so I'll put them up also, and we can speak to those, and we can just get Scott's perspective on all this. So I'm going to bring Scott Post in, everybody.
Welcome, Scott.
Good evening.
How you doing, Scott?
Hi, Sheryl. Hi, Steve. Hi, Tim.
Hey.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. Well, Scott, tell us a little bit about your position there with Operation Lifesaver, or your volunteerism. I guess is that a word, volunteerism? I don't know if that's a word.
It is now.
It is
now.
Hey, let me tell you, us truck drivers, we can make up some words, okay? So, Scott, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what you do at Operation Lifesaver.
Well, I want to be helpful in any way possible. Different audiences, if we have something going on, like we have a national train day down at the depot, we'll help work the booth there. We have a table, and we'll talk to the audience and different people. Anybody that comes along and has a question for us, and we'll hand out literature. Also volunteer a couple times a month during November and December at the Model Train Museum. It's called Night Trains, and have all these trains with lights on them, and it's a Christmas type setting. And the kids come down and see these trains in a nighttime setting with models of the background of the Twin Cities. And there's even some Lego train clubs that do this. And the kids stop over at the booth, and we have a roulette wheel. We have them spin the wheel, and whatever number it lands on, we'll have them answer a safety question. And then they can grab a keychain or a coloring book or something like that. Try to get them to be more aware of safety.
Oh, yeah. So I actually have some of the slides up here now, and I think on into the slideshow. I didn't know where you was going to bring that up at. I do think that there's some pictures of that. Sheryl, tell us a little bit about this photo right here.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. Not the photo specifically, but the topic.
Yeah.
So a number of years ago, Scott actually came to me and said, out in Florida, I believe, right, Scott? In Florida,
Yeah.
they're doing this project where they're putting the C-Trax Think Train logo. So, little backstory: the C-Trax Think Train logo was produced and then released in 2014, I believe. We wanted, as a national program, to be able to have something that was more recognizable and more something that just had more information in a short amount of time for the public. Operation Lifesaver obviously is our legal name. It's what we believe in, but it's just something that isn't as readily obvious to people what it is we do. So the C-Trax Think Train logo was released, and in Florida, at some point, they had started putting these on the sidewalks. And so Scott came to me and said, we really should do this. And I said, yes, that's fantastic. But it took us a couple of years to figure out a way to do it in a financially responsible way, because the Florida program had been able to do it with some very large steel plates or something that I was not going to be able to procure.
Yeah.
So we finally found a sign maker that was able to produce those stencils for us, and they have just been growing and growing. They're a huge hit. And now other states are starting to do it as well. And we hope that other communities will continue to partner with us. And we bring our volunteers out and we put them on the sidewalks near the crossings, because the reality is that a lot of people now, whether they're on foot or in car, are looking down at their phones. And so these are a unique opportunity for us to catch those people that are walking before they make a decision that they might regret.
Right, right. And that is a great idea. And I never thought about that. But yeah, a lot of people are looking down at their phones while they're walking. I'm surprised people don't run into more stuff, But hey, they might see that yellow sign down there and it's like, what is that? And then it'll remind them, hey, I'm fixing to cross over a railroad crossing here. So that is a great idea. So I commend you for doing that. Scott, here's your table with your roulette wheel with the kids and all that. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we have the kids come up. It kind of almost attracts the kids, see the roulette wheel and they get fascinated, and they get it. They want to come over and spin it, and so they'll spin it and land on a number. And we used to have a list of questions, but I usually just ask an age appropriate question. If it's a very small child, maybe 3 to 5 years old, I'll ask them if it's a good idea to play on railroad tracks. And some will say no, and some will say yes. If they say yes, you just won yourself a coloring book. Would you please go over this with your mom and dad with the Sly Fox and the Birdie and the coloring book, and go over this? And there's some videos on YouTube with the Sly Fox and Birdie to stay away from the railroad tracks. I think a lot of times parents talk to kids about not playing in the streets or roadways, but I don't think they talk to the kids enough about not playing around railroad tracks or on the railroad tracks. And we're trying to get the kids and the parents to be aware of that it's not a good idea to be playing around the railroad tracks. And if the kids are older, we explain to them that it's it's actually trespassing, and it's not a good place to be. Just like you wouldn't walk through a factory when you're on your way home, or and you should only cross the tracks at designated places. It might be safer to walk your bicycle across the tracks. If a train stopped, it's not a good idea if you're in a hurry to get home, to crawl underneath the train because it's blocking your sidewalk. We ask them a lot of different questions depending on their age. We'll have some of the older kids guess how many football fields it takes to stop a train. Another one is that we'll that's one of them. We ask a few other questions. I say if somebody's just gotten their driver's license, remind them to please if they're coming up to a stoplight situation where there's tracks and a stoplight, make sure that they're not stopped on the tracks waiting for traffic to clear. Because if the train comes, they can't go forward and they can't go backwards, and so they're a sitting duck. And make sure if they start over the tracks, make sure there's enough room for their car to fit on the other side. A lot of different things that we asked, all stemming from the roulette wheel.
Right, right. So you saw some of the pictures that I scrolled through there. So the last video, I mean, the last picture that I put up, that was your mascots there, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
My
so,
truck mascots.
Yeah. So name those mascots for us again.
We've got ST3, the C-Track Stick Train, which is a smaller version of what Sheryl or one of the other people wear when we, they'll be up at our Convoy on Saturday morning, big mascot, but I take the little one along for a message. I've got Urban Smokey, like Smokey Bear. He watches for smoky breaks or people doing things along, and we with kids on different things. I've got Sadie Duck with that was national.
Okay,
and I've got also.
Scott, I think.
Oh, am I breaking up?
Yeah, your internet connection was breaking up pretty good on our end here. So, but
I'm sorry.
No, we heard most of what you said, but it broke up on the very end there. But go ahead and finish. I think you're back with us now.
And then I've got, and then besides ST3, one of the other ones, I have a cow, and she reminds people to move over when there's emergency vehicles or anybody on the shoulder of the road to keep them safe.
Right, right.
And so those are some of the mascots I have.
And I bet the kids love that. I bet that's a good way to engage the kids is through the mascots and all that. So that's a absolutely great.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So I'm going to back off the microphone, Steve. I know we're coming up to the end of the show here, but I'm going to let you get one last question in there, Steve, and then we'll end the show. But go ahead, Steve.
I got one. I don't even know if anybody still does it. When we was a kid, we used to put pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters on the railroad tracks and get the train to run over them. Do you have any kids ask that? Do you have any kids ask about that? I mean, that's dangerous too. You know, they want to sneak out there and do it when the train's coming so they can watch it, you know. But
I think we have a lot of adults that ask about that because they didn't as kids.
No, not me.
But what we try really hard to educate the kids and the adults about is that, you know, just being that close to the tracks is actually really dangerous and it's illegal because all railroad property is private property. And especially adults, you know, that kind of raises their eyebrows like, oh, because maybe they don't realize, you know, like, oh, they think just like the road is public property and they can be on a road. But railroad tracks are actually private property. All tracks belong to, you know, a rail authority or a railroad or a community or something. And so it's, you know, not only are you trespassing, but it's also really dangerous. And trains actually overhang the tracks by several feet on both sides. And that doesn't even include if they have loose chains or hoses or oversized loads. So people think that they can get away in time. But the reality is that even if you're not on the tracks, you still could be close enough that you could get hurt by an oncoming train.
Right.
Well, Sheryl, thank you so much for coming on. It's been very informative. How can somebody? Oh, hold on just a minute. I got something right here, and you tell me if this is correct or not. Not that one. Sorry, I'm the producer and the editor and everything else. How about this one right here?
That's correct.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, that's a good way to get in touch with you, correct?
Yep. But we're on all those social platforms. And then from the video, our email is mnoperationlifesaver@gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Well,
what if somebody lives in another state, Sheryl? How would they get, if they wanted to volunteer in their state chapter, how would they do that?
That's a fantastic question, Scott. We didn't really go over that, but there are chapters in nearly every state across the country. And you go to volunteer there by going to oli.org. And anybody can sign up to volunteer. We provide free training, and you can make an impact in your own communities as well.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you for coming on tonight. Sheryl, thank you very much for coming on. And if y'all will just hang tight just for a few minutes, Steve and I, we're going to close the show out, and we'll talk to you just a few minutes on the other side after we're off air, okay?
All right. It's really great to talk to you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, Steve, it's been a great show tonight. Time flies when you're having fun. And man, I tell you what, there's so much that I learned. Everything from Kathy and Special Olympics and Sheryl, and everything they do over there, Operation Lifesaver. I mean, I want to encourage any of you drivers out there that if you want to get involved with either one of these things that we talked about tonight, go back, look at the show where I put it up, and call them, get involved. And both of these organizations need volunteers. And anyway, but Steve, last words.
Everyone be safe. If you get an opportunity, like Tim just said, throw that helping hand out there for Special Olympics. Anything of that nature. Railroad tracks, hold back. It's not the time you save is the time that's going to be wasted if something goes wrong. So everyone be safe. Great show, Tim. Great show.
Yep. Great show tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And y'all remember, look out for those who aren't looking out for themselves, because there's definitely a lot of people not looking out for themselves. See you next week, right here, same place, same time, Facebook, YouTube, and Apple Podcast, and what's the other podcast? Google Podcast we're on. So there's so many platforms that we're on. So anyway, y'all check us out, tell your friends about us, and we will see you next week.
I believe in God.